Well, with me is our Chief Minister, Alf Cannan, but this is the yearly meeting. This one is the looking back on your administration. I mean, this is your first year of the whole thing. But I want to talk to that and about being a constituency at MHK. But first of all, obviously delighted, no doubt, to get the position, second time of asking. How's it gone over the last year?
It's been a challenging year, Paul. We started this administration, I think, with the hope that we were seeing the back end of COVID, and actually we were faced pretty quickly with having to make some significant decisions around COVID, and that certainly dominated our thinking and our need for action from that period, right from when the Council of Ministers got together in October, right through sort of December, January, and took us on that transition pathway out from the 1st of April. And bear in mind, last December we were having to make some quite significant decisions about how we were going to manage COVID. And if you remember, I think we led the way, certainly across the British Isles, if not across the world, by saying actually people were going to self-test. And that was the best way to deal with this, hand the responsibility back to the individual. And I know there was some concern around at the time, but I think that strategic approach was right. And I think actually was followed by a number of other countries. We've set out our first budget. David Ashford was in charge at that point. We've dealt with the Ukraine crisis. We've implemented the sanctions and followed globally in terms of trying to tackle Russian influence around the world, and also, I think, carried out a very successful operation in terms of supporting the humanitarian effort and bringing Ukrainian refugees to the island. I think that was done incredibly successfully. We've also brought forward some new small measures, admittedly, but around first-time buyers in terms of the mid-rent schemes. We've delivered this new economic strategy for open discussion. Behind the scenes, of course, we've been quietly working away at the health service and bringing forward new standards of assessment for our schools, which the Education Minister will be bringing into play later this year. Well,
the Island Plan, as you mentioned there, this must be knocked off course slightly by everything that's going on around the world, though, is it? Or we still got, hoping to get the 100,000 living here and that sort of thing?
That's been reflected more so. I mean, I think we will. The economic strategy that has been developed adds some weight, I think, and more finesse in terms of targets to what was already laid out in the Island Plan. We will bring both documents together, merge those and give Tynwald a second bite at the cherry, so to speak, but primarily focusing around those 4 policy pillars that were outlined in the Island Plan, because what that KPMG work has done has showed us really that this demographic imbalance, which were basically 50-50 in terms of those working and those dependents in inverted commas, so those who are not.
Paul Crane says it's the worst in the world, isn't it? He's just come up with this.
He says it. It's quite serious. I mean, Paul's
always
done a lot on population, and I think you do have to plan ahead for the future. That's our view is the right solution. There's a number of strong arguments underpinning that. And it's not just about population growth, Paul. This is about rebalancing the population through growth. So, look, these are important statements. I think the critical point underneath that around the population rebalancing, the £10 billion economy, the £200 million of additional revenue for public services, and of course the sustainability targets, but critical to that, let's translate that into energy security for the future, is the detailed policy. Now we're making progress in some of those areas. There's a lot more detail to be added, but our job will be to make sure that we do now start getting some core delivery and some of those ambitions that we outlined right at the beginning of this administration.
Well, and there you put it, you're 1 year in out of 5 now. At what point, and allowing that the world events are going in their own direction, it's great ideas, great words, but when will the public see results?
Well, I think the public can only measure that when you've actually set yourself some proper targets. I mean, the public's going to see immediate results in terms of waiting lists, for example, because we're going to ask Tynwald to agree an £18.3 million plan to carry out 3,800 operations across the island by next April.
Well, so much money,
but that will relieve 3,800 individuals on this island who are stuck in long waiting lists, who are walking around in pain and in urgent need of these operations. That by itself, once you've done that, you will enable actually better economic activity, because some of these individuals, I'm not saying all of them, but some of these individuals are workers and earners who at the moment are heavily restricted because of knees and hips and everything else that they need. So, you know, there is economic benefit to carrying out initiatives like that. That is another initiative that we're carrying out. As I said, we're now going to benchmark and require schools to start going through better assessments to understand
well, that's
their,
a worry,
their,
isn't it?
their product and productivity.
A worry on those results, the exam results, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you know, we're going to continue with many details in the island plan, some of which have already been delivered, and we will continue to deliver more. And along the way, of course, yes, we've been a government that's been faced by substantial crises. But my view is that we have recognised we were facing, again now, a crisis, inverted commas, in terms of the cost of living. And we've set about tackling that and set about trying to deal with that by delivering early support, delivering this platform package, and getting on. So it's never a smooth, you know, this is never a smooth, easy passage. There's the plan, because the first thing that goes to the wall when you get into contact is the plan. And you know, I think all that aside, you know, I still firmly believe that we are on track. This government will deliver a lot for the people of the Isle of Man, and I think we'll see that in terms of diversity of opportunity, particularly building of brownfield sites, and that we will see that by the standard of both education and, I hope, the position that healthcare will be in 2 or 3 years'
Let's
time.
talk about healthcare, and clearly I'm talking about Dr. Ranson here. This is something that's hanging over the Isle of Man. It's not pretty in any way. It's not helping us internationally, and certainly it's still playing out as we speak. But I think we can comfortably say that she won her case, and we've all accepted that. And there was incredible, I was going to use the word failings, but it's worse than that. It's corruption in places, isn't it? I mean, there were some very, very interesting, well, no, this is the wrong word, you know, bad decisions being made, and people were being protected. You accept that?
Well, I think I've already, you and I had an incident.
It's massive defining.
We've been through
any
this.
More
yes,
on it?
Dr. Ranson's won her case. I think the critical point in terms of response, and bear in mind some of this is still playing out
a little bit, but
and
she won her case.
Troubles. Absolutely, won her case.
I just think it's
we're working on the cultural aspect, reviewing that leadership position. I'll update Tynwald in October as to where we are with that. I told you we're looking at some of the structures around what's going on in departments and what advice they're receiving when it comes to sort of proper personnel advice, and the way that professionalism is being looked after, and policies and proper governance is in place. So we will be reviewing that. I'll be coming back to Tynwald and the public with that. And I said that we were going to try and turn this around by April next year in terms of culture and performance. There have been some personnel changes throughout government, and I'm not relaxed, Paul, because we've got to keep going on this particular one, because like everybody else, you know, I want to be confident that first of all, the employees, but the employees need to feel confident that they're working for an organisation to be proud of, and absolutely the public deserve and demand, you know, a government that's responsive and is really focused and delivering in the right areas.
Okay. And you understand how that one is quite large, and that's why I come back to it, because it's still huge. And anyway, but to finish with in this section, I would like to talk about your constituency work, if any. Do you have time to do any of this at all, you're Chief Minister, or do you have to pass it over?
I mean, we run this two double MHK system now. Have done. This is the second term for me that this has been in operation. I said it's not a question of passing it over, but you know, I guess it is a challenging role. I think I hope my constituents understand that, but that doesn't you know, stop me getting out and dealing with constituency issues, or me you know, going to meet constituents and talking about issues and problems. Perhaps I'm just seeing my visibility may be slightly reduced in the constituency, but you know, one has to accept there are some limitations when you take on a role like this, and particularly at a time like this when it is so very, very challenging in so many different areas.
Have you enjoyed it, by the way? Is that the right word? Enjoyment.
Look, I'm very listen. I'm very privileged, right, to be a member of the House of Keys to have that
Chief
trust
Minister,
put in me, and of course very privileged to be able to serve people in this particular role. So I value every day that I have the opportunity to be able to fulfil that fulfil that sort of desire to hopefully make changes, positive changes in this role.
Okay. In part two, we'll be looking at the year ahead.